Guys, we're going to be continuing with our unit on measurement, and so today we're going to do our second lesson on metric units of length. So for starters, we're actually going to take a look at this chart again we saw the other day on the previous lesson and ask the question, how do we measure length in the metric system? Well, in the metric system, the base unit of length is the meter, and so all other measurements of length are going to be based off of the meter. So you can see here I've circled specifically this line here with meter. And so, we talked about yesterday that mnemonic device, King Henry does usually drink chocolate milk, and how that will help us remember the order of the different prefixes for our metric units. So when we have our basic unit here is the meter, and then we can add all of these different prefixes to it. So we can have a kilometer or a kilometer. We can have a hectometer, a decameter, just a meter, a decimeter, a centimeter, and a millimeter. All of these different units are ways we can measure length or distance in the metric system. So some of these are going to be really, really small, and some of these are going to be really, really big. And this is it. So if this is the largest unit that you can measure something in length in the metric system is the kilometer, and this is the smallest, the millimeter. And so remember what we talked about yesterday too, how this uses the base 10 system. So either way, if you're going, from a larger unit to a smaller unit, okay, you're going to be multiplying, increasing that number. And if you're going from a smaller unit to a larger unit, you're going to be decreasing that number. And we'll get more into this. Our next lesson actually will be on converting units of measurement, and so we'll start to see it today, and then we'll really work on using it in our next lesson. So let's take a really, really close-up look at some of these units of measurement. So this is a metric ruler here, and I got my little guy here with this magnifying glass because normally it would not be anywhere near this size. So this little line here would represent 1 millimeter. Okay, and if you remember yesterday in our benchmarks video, we said 1 millimeter was roughly about the width of a pin. So really, really super small. And then this one here actually represents 1 centimeter. And again, if you remember the benchmarks, that would be about the width of your middle or pointer finger. So again, it definitely would not be this size in real life. So let's go ahead, because we can really clearly see these lines here. Let's go ahead and count and see how many millimeters there are that it takes to make 1 centimeter. So this is our first one. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 millimeters make up 1 centimeter. And then if we keep going, okay, we have the 10 down here. And if you remember, we talked about on our chart how this is how the metric system works. It works in base 10. So 10 millimeters make a centimeter, and then 10 centimeters will actually make what is called a decimeter. So let's go ahead and fill this in real fast. So we said 1 centimeter equals how many millimeters? 10. And then if we were to use this same ruler, and if I have 5 centimeters, so this is the centimeters down here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I was right here, okay, how many millimeters would that be? Well, you could count each individual little line here. If you wanted to, you could skip count. Okay, you knew that this was 10, so you could skip count by tens. Or another thing is, you could even multiply. But for right now, we'll just do some skip counting. So we know that this is 10, then this would be 20, 30, 40, 50. So 5 centimeters would equal 50 millimeters. And we won't get too into this, but this right here would actually, the 10 centimeters right here, that would actually equal 1 decimeter. Oops. It's really hard to write with the mouse. I need a pen. So this whole length actually is equal to 1 decimeter. If you remember our benchmarks from yesterday, that would be about the width of a hand. And just a little, so yeah, that's just our little note down here that I actually added and I forgot about, that 10 centimeters does equal 1 decimeter. And so now it was actually super hard to find a picture of an entire meter stick. And they're all kind of broken up on the internet. But I found one. So this is 1 meter. Okay, and it's kind of hard to see, but this little tiny number here, this is a 1. That 1 is 1 centimeter, not 1 millimeter, 1 centimeter. So now you kind of realize what I meant when I said we were taking a real close look before. And so you know how it almost looks like a solid, black line kind of going along the edge of the meter stick here. Those are actually all millimeter marks. So they're so tiny that when you're zoomed out like this, it kind of just looks like, a continuous solid line. So there's tiny little millimeter marks inside here, and then each of the numbers represents 1 centimeter. And so you notice along this meter stick, there's some bold numbers. They kind of stand out a little bit more. They're a little bit more clear to read. So this says 10, this says 20, 30, and so forth. Those are the decimeters. So the decimeters are highlighted with more bold numbers. And then if you take 10 decimeters, so if you can tell, the decimeters go all the way up to 90, and then the next one would be 100, but 100, the 10th decimeter would be 100 centimeters, and then that actually is equal to 1 meter. Okay, so again, 1 meter, okay, if I had the groups of 10 here, or if I had, kind of did jumps along the stick, that would be 10 decimeters. And then that would actually be 100 centimeters. So if you actually look at all the little numbers here, it actually, this would be 90, and then go all the way up to 99, and then 100 would be the 1 meter mark. And then here's something a little challenging. What do you think would be the number of millimeters that would be in the meter? So think about it. If there's 100 centimeters, so if we had 100 centimeters, and if there's 10 millimeters in each of those centimeters, so times that by 10. Remember the rule for 10, we always you just add a 0 on the end of whatever number you're multiplying it by. So if you guessed 1,000 millimeters, you would be correct. Okay, there are 1,000 millimeters in a meter. All right, that's a lot. That's why they're so tiny. At the other end of the spectrum here, so these are all small units of measurements. And at the other end, remember we talked about kilometers. So I'm actually going to scroll back here a couple of pages. We talked about kilometers. This is the largest unit you can use. And so for kilometers, it actually takes 1,000 meters. Okay, 1,000 meters. So 1,000 of those yardsticks, those big yardsticks. It takes 1,000 of those in order to make 1 kilometer. So one day, if you just have a bunch of money you want to waste, if you want to buy 1,000 meter sticks and line them up end to end, you would have 1 whole kilometer. And it would probably take you about 10 minutes to walk from one end of all those meter sticks to the other end. So lots of different, units of measurements that we have. But let's take a closer look. What is a pattern that we see with these measurements? Okay, we have 1 meter equals 10 decimeters, 1 meter equals 100 centimeters, and 1 meter equals 1,000 millimeters. What do we notice here? Well, I hope you said that, they're all multiples of 10 and you'd be correct. So like we said before, again, looking at the chart from earlier on, they're all multiples of 10. So as we were going smaller and smaller in our unit size, because remember the millimeter is super, super tiny. As we were going smaller and smaller, we kept multiplying by 10. Okay, and so we need more. What is happening is we need more of those really small units to equal the larger unit. Okay, so 1 meter times 10 gives us 10 decimeters, times 10 again, 100 centimeters, and then times 10 again to give us 1,000 millimeters. So if I had 3 meters, what operation would I use in order to figure out how many centimeters that is? Okay, if I'm going from a larger unit to a smaller unit, I'm going to have to multiply. Okay, I can't spell today. Multiply. All right, so I would definitely need to multiply in this case because I have decimeters in the way. You know, it wouldn't just be 10. I would have to multiply by 100 in order to figure out how many centimeters I had in 3 meters. So pretty easy. 3 times 100 would be 300. So 3 meters would be 300 centimeters. And we'll practice this some more in our lesson tomorrow as well. And so real fast, just to wrap up the lesson today, you can use different metric units to describe the same metric length. Okay, well, what exactly does that mean? Well, if I had, now obviously this is not proportion, this is not to size, to scale. This is just a very, enlarged demonstration here. So here I have different units. I have each of these blocks is 1 centimeter. But remember, we said that 10 millimeters equals a centimeter. So down here I have 10 millimeters. And so I have 5 centimeter blocks lined up here. So I can say this length is 5 centimeters, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now down here, though, I have the same amount. It's just represented in a different metric unit. Okay. So instead of centimeters, I have millimeters, but I still have that same ratio, right? For every 1 centimeter, I need 10 millimeters. So I have 10 millimeters here, 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 and here, and here. And so, if I skip count of these, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, I would say that this length is 50 millimeters. However, are these lengths the same? Yes, they are, because 5 centimeters is equal to 50 millimeters. Okay, and so we'll get into conversions some more tomorrow. This really is what is happening here. We're converting the centimeters into millimeters. So for your assignment today, just to kind of get you some comfort and exposure with the metric system, what I would like for you to do is to just go and find something in your house. And if you don't have a metric ruler or measuring tape, or anything like that, I am going to attach a downloadable printable metric ruler that you can use, and just find something around your house, not too big obviously, because I want you to measure it in centimeters. And so you're going to upload a picture on your Dojo, and you're going to tell me the length, okay, or the width, you can choose, of the object you chose in centimeters. So you're going to be using the metric system. All right, guys, I'll be back and we'll talk about converting units of measurement later. Bye.